so intertwined. But, and this is kind of even out today because we don't even have Pinterest on here. But when you're explaining social media, you know, all of these different aspects have different kind of ways. Twitter is, you know, I have to try it, and it's all really quick. Facebook is, okay, I tried it. You know, I tried something, I put it up here. Foursquare is, this is where I tried it, so it's all about location. YouTube, you know, is about video, so it's like, hey, look at me trying this thing. LinkedIn, which is really more professional. And I know all the Chileans are really into LinkedIn right now. I'm good at trying it, so hire me to try it. And then Google Plus, and I'm not doing too much on Google Plus. It's let's try this all together. So I need to add Pinterest to this. Anyone involved with Pinterest out there yet? Richard is, but it's always expanding. There was another study, so if anybody wants to either study, this is from the Wine Market Council. Wine Market Council is a research group we subscribe to, and they did a big social media report last May, and they talked about looking what American wine consumers do. The top online activities were reading customer ratings and reviews and maintaining a social network. So, you know, it's very linked. And core wine drinkers are the ones that drink a few times, 2 to 3 times a week, where marginal drinkers are maybe 2 to 3 times a month. So people we're after are core. They're very involved online. So this is really our consumer. And you know, half of the wine consumers are seeking information on the internet. I mean, information is really what it's about. And then found that Facebook is by far the most popular social network for this group of wine drinkers. And I got a few charts that kind of just bring this to life. When you look at, you know, the core wine drinkers, the ones that are really drinking frequently, these people that love wine, and they're, you know, half of them are looking for reviews. Across the board, though, you're seeing people are on social networks. I mean, Facebook or MySpace, definitely Facebook. And they're reading blogs. So the core, 35% of them are reading blogs. I mean, that's how they're getting their information. And then they also respond. They'll post reviews. So they're not only consuming information, they're getting information. I think that's the social aspect that we're talking about, that it's a circle. And then they also, but here I thought was interesting, not that many people comment. People would rather share than comment. I don't know if that's your experience, guys, but I know I share a lot more really than I comment. When you look at the kind of information that they're looking for, those core people, everyone's looking for basic information on wine. Information on specific wines, prices, you know, that's what everyone's looking for, and then information about the wineries. But the core are the guys that are really engaged. And when you look at your websites, that's what you're going to gear your information to. And this is just looking at, you know, if you look at social media and you look at core wine drinkers versus, or these are all wine drinkers, versus the general population, okay? They're more engaged. With Facebook, MySpace about the same. But look at Twitter. Twitter, you can see wine drinkers much more engaged, and a little bit more on LinkedIn. And when we think about generations, we always think that social media is so much for millennials. But here you'll see with Facebook, you know, maintaining a social networking page above 65 is 26%. I mean, that's very strong for everybody. When you look at what millennials are more apt to do, they're more apt to have their own blog. I mean, they really want to communicate, you know, out there. The older you get, blogs aren't as common. They're going to put videos. They're going to be on YouTube. Podcasts are much more for millennials. So this is just a nice kind of look at, if you're trying to target a certain consumer, do you want to go more for millennials or more for baby boomers? Active tweeter, definitely younger. And then following people on Twitter, definitely millennials, but more to Gen X. But the social networking page is by far everyone. So it might be a question for these guys, but I would think if you want to do one versus the other, I would definitely do Facebook. I think it's best to do both because you can link them, and that's what we do. Because you're doing, but Facebook probably is the easier way to get going. And Twitter.
Definitely, I think it's easier, and in my personal opinion and experience, is that Facebook, you have more direct engagement with your actual consumer. I find Twitter to be more industry, so both are important to do, but if you really want to target your end consumer, Facebook is where more of those people are and where they're sharing more with their friends than Twitter.
And I think that we definitely find a lot more trade on Twitter. And you get a lot of journalists that you couldn't get to otherwise, but you can talk to them on Twitter. I mean, Nathan Wellesley from the Wine Spectator, some of these guys aren't very accessible, even, well, James Molesworth and Neil Martin, I mean, they're on Twitter. And for some reason, they seem to be, not necessarily, they're just more accessible. And this is just looking at, you look at membership by generation. Again, Facebook, really across the board. Twitter skewing a little bit younger. LinkedIn, I was surprised, it's the boomers on LinkedIn. It's like 14%. And then MySpace, I find MySpace really going away.
I didn't know it was still around.
I didn't, yeah. It's like, I was shocked on that. And then YouTube, all the young kids wanted to be. So when we were talking about this, kind of talking how blogs and social media are connected, and that social media is a really great way to get a lot of comments, but wanted to ask you guys, how do you use social media to promote your blog? Corey, I know you do a lot.
Yes, so I mean, obviously my primary content is generated on the blog itself, but then I always, post on both Facebook and Twitter about those blog posts, and a link to them, as well as doing other individual updates, not the post itself, but, while I've been here, I've been posting pictures and other comments online, places we've visited and we've tasted, on Twitter and Facebook as well. The other thing that I do that I would encourage you to do is to monitor hashtags on Twitter. So like we talked about earlier, following the hashtag blogchili was a way that you could see what took place at the tasting the other night, and also that's what we've been using during our trip. And that's a good way to follow, those, and I think there's other ones that.
Even just the
more
wine
regular.
hashtag, I mean, just
Right.
hashtag wine, I'd be surprised how many things you can learn or find out about.
Right.
Or just by appending that to the end of a tweet or a blog post. Or
Exactly, because it helps kind of narrow it down, because you are so limited in your, your characters you can use on Twitter, and there's so much happening and so much noise, so to speak, on Twitter, that's a way you can really focus in on certain specific areas that apply to you, or that I can monitor, or what I most frequently write about or want to stay engaged with. And I found social media can be an easy way for people to kind of passively see what I have to say or do. I mean, like Tim mentioned earlier, he's subscribed to the blog. People can get our emails, they can go on Facebook, they can follow us on Twitter, they can subscribe to an RSS feed, and then those things, you don't actually have to visit my website. I mean, I'd like you to, that'd be great, but.
You can visit them now. Like, you'll visit me.
Yeah.
I'll go
Right.
check my email, and there it is, your next blog post.
Right.
And I'll check it out, because I'm not gonna be, oh, wait, what's her address? I should go see
Right.
what's been posted lately, or
Right.
it's not gonna happen.
Right,
Once you get that address, that's powerful.
Exactly, and that's the way that, I guess, but the specific question, how do you promote? It's just a way to spread it out and, get it out there, and it's just an easy way for people to connect to me and see if, if they've found that I'm someone that they, whose palate they kind of align with, or they find what I have to say interesting, then, it's just an easy way for them to connect with me in whatever way is most comfortable for them.
Well, I mean, that's probably it. Probably each of those, there's a certain percentage that like to go to the blogs. There's certain people that want it sent to them. So you're appealing to more people.
Exactly. And like I said earlier when you were giving the intro, I really do think that Facebook is the way to interact directly with the consumer, the person that's gonna go buy your wine. And then Twitter is also important because it's the way to interact with the industry, like you said, to have, you know, access to us, to other media, to just sort of, you know, have an ear to what's going on, so that you kind of know what's going on in your industry and you can join in the conversation, which then may give you ideas of what to post on your Facebook page to share with the end consumer. So I think they're both important. You just have to know what your goal is and who you're targeting, and that can determine what you do on each site. And I think, as mentioned earlier, you know, today, we get more comments on social media sites, either on Facebook or Twitter, about our posts than directly on the post itself on the website. I mean, that's just kind of the way that.
Well, because people live on that.
Right, that's where it's happening, so.
I was thinking, you know, on that note, you know, I mean, I've been blogging since 2004, you know, before Facebook and Twitter, and I think now if you look at a blog and it has a lot of, you're talking about like what blogs should I pay attention to or which ones are, I mean, blogs that get actual comments on them, to me, that's really powerful engagement. Someone's actually going to go to the site, read something, and then make a comment on the site. And also, I think, not just, you know, how do I promote my blog, I also promote other people's blogs. And I think the reciprocity in the community is a big way how you get more readers, or more people looking at you, you know, talk to other, you know, from your perspective, talk to other wineries, talk about Chile as a whole, talk about the wine industry as a whole, maybe share an article that, I mean, maybe a California winery wrote something really interesting about sustainability, and you could say, here's an article about sustainability in California. At our winery, we're also doing these things. So, and I think, because then they'll enjoy that, and then you know, you'll be on their radar. So I think, you know, you have to balance between self-promotion and promoting others. You know, that people do things that you believe in, or they're doing techniques that are the same things to what you're doing, or maybe it's just something like, this winery is doing something very unique. Here is their story. What do you think? Or, you know, we're interested in this kind of technique as well, concrete eggs or something like that people would find really interesting. So I think, you know, definitely I use as many channels as I can to promote what I do, but a key part of getting new readers is I engage with a lot of other bloggers, especially, you know, food bloggers too as well, and doing guest posts on their sites or websites that want to interview me. You know, really, there aren't too many. I said no to a lot of things, but as far as like other bloggers, if they want to interview me or if they want to guest post, usually if it's a fellow blogger, you know, because that's what it's all about, is you know, just being out there, having fun, creating the content, and you never know how guesting for another platform might pay off, you know, down the road.
Great. Some good ideas. And we've already kind of talked about this, you know, the idea of connecting, especially with winemakers. I'm seeing winemakers more and more active on Twitter, which is great. But if you found, you know, Gabe, if you talk to winemakers or wineries, how do you connect with them on social media?
Ones that I have interaction with often in person, or I tasted their wine, so I'll you know, post on their Facebook pages what I'm rating, and usually get feedback from them, or you know, or tweet to them, both of those ways, and obviously you know, also by email and stuff like that. But certainly, if it's a winery I like, I'll follow them on either Facebook or Twitter or both, and see what they're up to. And again, if I've written about them, obviously I also want to follow what if they've commented on it. I want to see what what the conversation is like, what people are saying about what I've written, and what other people are saying as well about those wines.
Des, do you actively follow any winemakers or wineries?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of them that I interact with all the time, and maybe it's because I'm a fossil. I also like it in handwritten notes. It doesn't take much time. There are a couple of winemakers who, if I write about their wines, will actually send me a note. And I wrote back to them one time. I said, well, dear Austin, if this is really you, because I thought probably it was a PR person that read them. It turned out it was really him. So that has an impact. That makes a difference. But it's easy with the social media to keep track of a whole lot of people all at once. And it's easy for the wineries to do that too. They don't have to sit down and write 50 notes or 100 notes. They can send out an email and blanket a lot of people, and they can change it a little bit here and there to make it personal. And I mentioned YouTube before, and maybe a lot of people don't use it very much anymore, but I think that has a big impact. If somebody can do a nice video, boom, it hits you just like that. And there's still a lot of people who check out YouTube and see some fun videos, interesting videos. Going out in your vineyard, you want to show sustainability. Here, this is what we're doing. Or here's our drip irrigation, or the sunset. Here's the beautiful sunset. You can show somebody drinking a glass of wine. Or if you want to test market an ad, do a little commercial. You can do that on YouTube and send it out and say, hey, what do you think of that? Do you like that or not? So there's a lot of ways to go back and forth. My partner has used Twitter more than I have, but I'm getting more comfortable with it, and I find that's a real effective way to keep in touch. Every time we post about a wine, he'll send out something, well, Dennis reviewed such and such a wine today. What do you think? Something like that. So, and then I like that idea of engaging, asking a question. Get them engaged so they have to say something.
And you took the little videos of each winemaker where we were. What are you going to do with those?
I've done this before, and again, I'm not very technically adept, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. I just take my camera, do a little short video, come up close so that I can see the face, and you can see the winery in the background, that's better. And say, tell me your name, tell me the winery you're from, and whatever you want to tell us about your wine or your operation. And what I do is I'll do a little sort of a profile of the winery when I get back, and I'll drop it in. I've done that before, and I get a lot of hits. I get a lot more hits on the video than almost anything else we do. People like to get engaged in the video because you see people in their own environment, in their own words. Again, that's all part of the social media. There's no filter. You can do that with your winery. You can post, if you have on your webpage, interview different people in the company. And if you really want to have fun, have a couple of funny ones mixed in with it so people can kind of joke and laugh around.
Tim, do you interact with any wineries on social media?
Not particularly, because I don't do a lot of, Facebooking and stuff like that. I'm more of a personal person on that matter. But well, I do want to address something that I discussed earlier when I said, well, there's 200,000 visitors, and how do you get these emails? And the group here is more indicating of smaller producers where maybe they don't have these facilities that have, a lot of people come to visit. And if that were the case, and I was looking to personally build, an email database that I could send a newsletter to, I would be using the back of the bottle and on the label to somehow offer either a reminder to like us on Facebook or to sign up for our email, and maybe even put some kind of incentive on there. And that could be any kind of promotion as possible, because people love that stuff. And I don't think that people use I think people should use the labels, because you don't have to do anything. They're going to see the wine, they're going to have a wine, they're going to be reading about it on the back, and they're going to see, some kind of type on or whatever. Look us up on Facebook, or whatever, however you want to phrase it. You do. I think that would be really effective in garnering emails. And then also on the Facebook front, just by having a page, even if you don't have a lot of time to do a lot with it, people that come to friend you on the Facebook, once they do that, they're your friend, and they have a profile there that has an email address. And so I would go in and suck it out, like I do at a restaurant. I go in, we get lots of strangers. I don't know who they are. But they like our little Facebook page, and that's cool. And I'm like, oh, we have 5 new likes. I'm gonna get 5 new emails. I'm sure they won't mind. They like us. So when they get the email from us, they're like, oh, that's cool.
I don't know. That might be controversial. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I coach you.
People it's up to you. But when you're struggling and you want to do something, fair game. But I just come from the restaurant side. These guys are all pro bloggers, and I was just putting myself in the shoes of somebody else and how I might take that.
Okay. No, but email's critical.
I'm going to get slapped here later today.
But no, because you have to have people opt in. Actually, in the United States, people are really sensitive. You always have to make sure they can unsubscribe. Often I get on email lists, and if they don't even unsubscribe, I go crazy, because people don't want unwanted emails.
Right, and I think to be extremely sensitive of that, and maybe even if you were to do something like that, Or you, I mean, you can message them, that's something
Right.
you, hey, we'd like to add you to our newsletter.
I think that's.
Maybe that's a better way than
better
just,
way.
ripping it off and throwing it in there, but I can't stress enough the importance of being able to have a newsletter or a blog format. It does not cost a lot of money. We did ours, it cost $0. And that's been the vehicle for us. And I love Facebook, I really do. I think it's great. I think it will, it's going to continue to be a major social media entity. But with that being said, also, one thing's clear is that next year I'm going to have more friends than I do today. And everybody else that's on Facebook is going to have more friends than I do today. And when I go to check my email this morning, I've got 5 emails. And when I go to check my Facebook Rolodex of things that I've got, I don't have enough time to scroll through the number of posts that are there. It's almost impossible. And it's just going to get more and more intense. And frankly, at our restaurant, when we send out, we do our status updates and whatnot, Facebook's not stupid. I think they're getting smarter and smarter because I think it was a couple of months ago now, it's promote your post. Don't they charge for that now? It's like $5 to...
They do know.
Yeah, they do now. Okay, that indicates to me, anyway, and I'm not running for president here, but it indicates to me that, well, when I send a post out and we get the feedback from that, the number of impressions or people that see that, it's never equal or very close to our total of the friends that we have. Even my own personal, I go on to see a friend of mine that I haven't seen in a long time, and they've been posting, but I never got any of their posts. So I don't quite know what they're doing or how they're operating, but it's going to get, I think, a little bit more challenging in the future, and we'll see how it develops.
Yeah.
But again, I think email's the way to go, and I can't stress that enough. It's more than I thought about it last night, this morning. I'm like, say screw. I can only share the success stories that we've had with our restaurant. Whether that translates to a small winery or not, I have no idea.
I think the point is that you have to try a lot of things. And monitor, see what works for you. I started thinking about, let's talk about best practices and who you can learn from. And I was looking at sites the other day to see who's doing a good job from Chile. And just thought I'd flash up some examples. And I saw Santa Rita actually has 95,000 followers. And Maria Cecilia is here, and she said, actually, it's her importer that manages this, and they're really active.
Send information to the import.
Yeah, and they work together.
They're all
but-
connected,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's good. I mean, Palm Bay's gotten very aggressive with this. And I think go on their site. You can, like them. You'll see they do more than just talk about them. They've got obviously the Wine Spectator, but they also put. They have a program. Facebook is a great place for content, for contests, and they did a whole program of cell phones for soldiers. It's gone for a few years. So something about giving back. We're big into charities in the United States. If you're supporting something, it's a great way to get donations and to show there's another side. And then I also found this wine locator that I thought was really cool. But I used it and from my address and it sent me to Virginia, so they went into work. But I thought it was great because that's one of the biggest things. People call us all the time, where can I find this, where can I find this? And Wine Search is great, but could you even connect to Wine Search on Facebook? Probably. Also was looking at Conchitoro. Now Conchitoro doesn't want to do one for Conchitoro, they do it for their individual brands. Because their individual brands have just different personalities. Casillero del Diablo, it's their time of year. They're really into Halloween. It makes sense. It's all about the devil. And they'll do different contests, but it's theme, and I think what's great about this is it really reflects their brand. They also they're on Twitter. I didn't see Santa Rita on Twitter. No. Okay. And so Casillero is on both Twitter and Facebook. Just different ways to go. But those are by far the biggest ones I found in Chile. And then Epica is a new brand that was launched this year from San Pedro. And everything Epica's done has been with social media. I mean, they were completely going against the younger consumer, even to the taste profile. The reds are sweeter style, and so they've been really successful. They actually just won some award with social media. And they actually had 45,000 fans in a short time. When you get those big fans, a lot of it tends to be with advertising, just FYI, but it's not too expensive to do that. But it's worked well with them. You can see they have a burger, again, bringing different visuals on there. But I wanted to ask the bloggers if they had any, good examples. Abigail, I know you work with a lot of different wineries.
Yeah, there's one that really stands out. I don't know if you'll be familiar, and if not, I can try to pull another example. But Wine Sisterhood. Have you guys heard of Wine Sisterhood? Anyone out here? They have several brands. They have they actually have various ones as well. It's a good example. They do Purple Cowboy, and they do Middle Sister, and
It's on Facebook?
yeah, they're on Facebook. And but their overall brand is called the Wine Sisterhood, but they have various brands within. And I think they're a terrific example of giving a voice behind, as a singular voice behind each brand, but they're entirely different. So their Purple Cowboy brand, they focus on, they're out of Paso Robles, and but their brand manager runs out of Texas, and so everything they do is related. They still do click candy, but it's related to cowboys. But their Wine Sisterhood is predominantly female, and they're sure to target females that are sisters and create a community of sisterhood, hence the name. So
I'll look that up. I was going to show you, this is, we put it on our Facebook, or Caroline did, on Jameson's article. So let me see if I can find Wine Sister.
but that would be one brand that I think would be terrific. I think best practices really come down to consistency and management. Like we've all discussed, it's not.
Wow, these guys have 190,000 likes.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, they're really active, but they do a good job because that's just the umbrella. They have like 5 brands beneath them. But I think the big thing that when it comes to best practices is deciding what you want your winery to represent and what you want them to say, and then maintaining consistency. What do you think?
Yeah, I would just say, I wouldn't want anyone to be intimidated by seeing those numbers and thinking, I don't have a Facebook page, how am I gonna have 190,000 followers, So each of you has something different to offer that makes you unique and makes your winery unique, and that's what I would encourage you to figure out. What is best for you and your product, your brand, and who are you trying to reach, and what are you most comfortable with? I was, like I said earlier, it is great to mix up things, but if posting a humorous picture is not your style,
Exactly.
is not something that you're comfortable with and doesn't speak to your brand, don't do it. Post what does give somebody an insight into you, and that's what people are looking for online. They want to know you. They want to know your winery, they want to know your wine, they want to know where it came from, so that they have a cool story to tell their friend when they pull your bottle out to have with their dinner tonight. So I would just say don't let all this intimidate you. Just think about it. Hopefully we'll give you some ideas of what to do and how to maybe get started, but I don't know.
Your brand
right,
is what we're
make it
trying to
genuine.
say. We can't determine what your brand should be saying, but you know it. So, Casa Silva, does a great job of using to their advantage, the polo, what's the right term? Grounds that they have, and that's terrific, and they should use that to their advantage, and they do. And that would by no means resonate with, Wine Sisterhood, who is trying to create sisterhood. It really is just determining what your brand is and then maintaining it and finding ways to resonate with other people, because we all want to feel like,
And when you do start or continue to develop your page, don't feel like you're not successful based on the number of followers or fans. Any that you have, that's a positive. And so, I wouldn't, don't let that be the complete measure of whether it's worth doing or not.
No, that's a good point. It's like any communication, you want to be authentic, and
And tonight showed a very bad example of a winery, what they can do. Jeff,
Well, I
some
think
very
a
bad
bad example, I mean, I was talking with some, I mean, it's not, their example is not bad, but if you're going to have a Facebook page and it's just out there with no information, there's nothing on there, I mean, I really think if you're gonna, don't just have a Facebook page to have one, like really think about what does it mean to me, what am I gonna do with this, am I gonna be updating it daily, what I can be putting on there. You know, I think to really think about what it's going to look like 1 month from now, 6 months from now, 1 week from now, rather than just, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even do it unless you really were committed to updating it and thinking about content, and having fun with it and enjoying it, not just being like, it's like, oh, I got to put something on Facebook, what am I going to do? But just, you know, be creative, have fun, and be informative about who you are and what you bring to the table. It's different, and you know what, and, you know, some posts, you know, won't work, some will work. I mean, the thing is, it's like, especially with Twitter too, it's like, I mean, you know, it's my opinion, you can't post too much on Twitter. Twitter is just like a big flowing stream, and a lot of things pass by. You know, I mean, like when I have a new blog post, I'll say it 3 times in one day on Twitter. I'll phrase it a little differently, but I don't think you can have, you know, don't be post as often as you can, and you know, some things will resonate with people, some things won't, and you learn from that. But really, I think a bad example would be just really think about what you're going to do before you launch the page rather than after it's launched, because once it's out there, people are going to start finding it, and if they look at it once and it's, you know, there's just a image on there that's not compelling, or there's no content, or there's not even, like I was talking earlier, when you go to About, like there's not even a link to your website or a 2-sentence description of what you're doing. Actually, I was going to put up Jordan's.
Sure.
But this is a California winery that I think is doing a great job. Now, they have a dedicated person doing this, but I think there's a lot you can pull from it. But I think a bad one is just people who haven't thought about it, they just get it up there, then they're working. If it's causing you that much stress and worry, you know, maybe there's you know, having a blog on your website, you just write something, or you know, just find the platform that works best for you. And if you're going to do it, make sure that you have a strategy and some thoughts that are out there putting up content. So that, to me, a bad one would be one that you can see there's no thought put into it and no effort, and it's just and there's no information on there. I mean, basic information. I mean, I'd be surprised, just like websites, when you look at winery websites, it's like, I didn't even see like a phone number or an email address, or it's all flash, and you know, it's
Like, this is cute,
Here's-
Dante, the
here's-
newest edition.
So here's Jordan, and Lisa Manson does this, and you know, of course, Jordan will love that. But then if you scroll down, there's also you know, posts about vote on the best photo from a grape harvest, or you know, they're in Napa, so there's something about the San Francisco Giants sports. There's a photo of their harvest team. So just, I mean, you don't have to, and they've only got, you know, 10,000, 9,000 likes, but look at 127, you know, likes on posts. I mean, people are commenting, and it looks, I mean, I think it looks great too. I mean, this is something where they have someone dedicated to doing this, but I think this is a really good example of really rich, very diverse content. And I think you can look at something like this and kind of, you know, pull some things and use it in your own way and perspective. It's great.
Well, all of you, when you know, when we visit the wineries, the experience is so rich. And to me, I would really pull from that, because that's, to me, those are the best stories. And you know, we keep on talking about stories, but that's what's really resonated with me and with this group. And that's what people want to commit. That's it.
And I would just say, Jameson touched on it briefly, but just from a very basic level, the same thing goes for your website. I mean, I encourage you to all have one, but keep it up to date. I mean, it doesn't have to be elaborate, but I'm amazed at the number, you know, like I said, we want to share these stories and something interesting about you and where the wine came from, and, you know, I'll have a great wine and want to write about it, and I can't find out what year you were founded, or where, sometimes even where exactly you're located, or, you know, or even prices for wines, or the information about wines is like from 3 vintages ago.
That's a major problem.
Yeah, you know, so.
If you're not keeping, I'm not to interrupt, but if you're not keeping up on that little tidbit, they're going to assume that what's wrong there extends itself into the vineyard. That's not good. So at least keep, you know, that rudimentary stuff, I mean, outside of all this, but on a website, make sure at least the vintages you're listing or current, and at least people can sense it, and you're on top of this a little bit.
No, we're looking at tech sheets all the time, and I think we can all use some work on getting those better. You know, there's so much social media out there. We were saying, you know, does MySpace even exist? You know, where's Pinterest going? Love to get, you know, Gabe, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen with Facebook and Twitter?
It's a good question. I mean, Facebook has already evolved from the time it's been out, and obviously one of the major things with the format change on the timeline. It seems like it's you know, just growing onward and upward, but yeah, eventually they will be replaced probably. Like you said, MySpace. I mean, what, 8 years ago, MySpace was all the rage, and then like seemingly overnight, MySpace was possibly the single lamest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
And now Facebook is hot, and there's no particular reason to think it's going to go away, except that everything eventually does. But I think these are both really important today. So strike while the iron's hot. Use Facebook and Twitter to your best advantage now. And the next thing that comes along, when it does, you know, if you're into Facebook and Twitter, you'll probably find out about the next greatest thing by those, and then we'll all morph onto the next platform.
I mean, I find myself spending a lot more time on Instagram, and if you're not familiar, it's a great photo sharing tool, and I can also push out my photos to Flickr for blog posts, and Facebook and Twitter. But I'm seeing a lot more dialogue on it, and the nice thing about that is what you can take with your iPhone, or it's on Android too, great photos, and apply all these filters to them. And with some, I wish I had thought of this, but when you look at like sort of like Twitter, it's just a bunch of words going by. But when you're scrolling through an Instagram feed, there's, I mean, you have to look at photos. You're looking at photos, and I think anything you can do visually that someone can look at. And I'm seeing a lot more people commenting on Instagram, and I'm getting more likes via Instagram, and people are actually having more conversations on it too, rather than just so. I think that's an exciting platform on Pinterest. Especially for food especially, and wine. Like I created a Pinterest board. It was like, I went to Santorini, it's like Santorini wine and food, and it's just like 50 photos on there. So I think, and all you need to, it's easy to, it's pretty easy to upload photos to it or choose photos for it. So I think there's so many platforms out there that have a lot of eyes on it, and maybe, you know, I think visual is a great way to go, just, you know, illustrating what you do through photos and just with short content, because I mean, I like to write long blog posts too, but honestly, you know, I don't know how many people read the whole thing from top to bottom. They definitely look at a picture, maybe read a few sentences, so sometimes it's nice to just have one image, a couple quick sentences, and people can really digest that, and then maybe that'll pique their interest to follow you more. But I think, you know, Facebook gets a little, I mean, I just look at it, I haven't done anything now with like lists on Facebook. I do look at the lists on Twitter, but I just think there's a lot of platforms out there if you're more a visual person, if you want to be a little more detailed, if you want, you know, just kind of, you can investigate these things and use what works best for you. And some of the platforms now you can, like Instagram, I mean, you can use that to push things out to Facebook and Twitter, so really you don't have to post it there, and it'll automatically send it out for you. So there's just a lot more options. Who knows what Facebook will look like in 5 years? I mean, or with Pinterest, you know, supposedly it's, you know, it's so hot right now. I mean, that, you know, you could never like, I mean, I still remember Friendster. I mean, no one under 30 has ever heard of that, I don't think. But yeah, you never know what platform is going to be here today, gone tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, for now, you know, Facebook, Twitter, and I think, you know, Instagram is something we're looking at.
And Jameson's going to get a little bit of insight on what, you know, he has been promoting through social media.
So I'm going to talk about foodista.com. It's a site. I'm the wine editor for it. It was founded in 2008, and it kind of started out as a cooking encyclopedia, where like Wikipedia, where you could user-generated recipes, and now it's morphed into kind of a much bigger food blog, and that's a huge part of our traffic. Kind of like, you know, like a HubPo for food, where there'll be funny food articles, there'll be food news, we have a cocktail editor, there'll be seasonal items, food news, opinions, interviews, and things like that. And we get 1 million page views per month, we have 300,000 Twitter followers, 35,000 Facebook fans, and I just looked at some of the data. Our audience is 78% women, so it's a very, we have a lot of, it's mostly women looking at our site. And actually, 75% of our editors are women too. There's just, I write about wine, we've got a guy who writes about cocktails. And so I always think about writing about wine, and kind of what I encourage you to do about your content too. I mean, food is such a big part of wine that I think if you're creating content online, like talk about food, talk about the food you're eating. Talk about food and wine pairing. People love to read about food and wine pairing, and it's really hard to write about wine without writing about food. So maybe this smoked eggplant ice cream. So I was in Santorini, and we went to this restaurant that had smoked eggplant ice cream, and so I used that as a way to talk about Vinsanto, like the famous dessert wine of Santorini. And I think a lot of food people who don't know a lot about wine, I'm kind of like opening the door for them to read about a wine of Santorini, which probably people don't think a lot about Greek wine or certainly wines from Santorini. And then I'll have like a nice picture from my travels too. So what I like to do is just think of like, instead of just having a photo of a bottle at the top, 1995 Vinsanto from Santorini, the Vinsanto from Santorini is blah, blah, blah. It gets, it starts reading like a text sheet. So I try to think, especially writing for a food audience who knows a lot about food, enjoys wine but doesn't know a lot about it. I like to do that. And, and if I do, the feeling blue about Bordeaux. So I was just in Bordeaux, and I like to always have a little subject that is kind of fun or cheeky. And feeling blue it wasn't because like I was sad about them, it was because we were talking about wine labels and marketing and what consumers think and what people think. So I had a post about looking at wine labels in Bordeaux and saying, here are things that they're doing differently. So just really any way to talk about wine. I like to use food as a vehicle to talk about wine.
And you were wearing blue. I
was wearing a blue sweater, so there's all this blue imagery at the chateau. So I thought that would be a fun way to engage people. And then I made it into a slideshow. So, I just like to think about, writing about wine besides just like reviewing the bottle you're drinking in front of you, like showing pictures of the place you're at, talking about the food, and just getting I think the food audience is, literally thirsty for wine knowledge. And this is a way that you can open the door for that. So I just want to kind of encourage all of you to think about your content, think about how important food is with wine and how often you enjoy wine and food together. Because people want to know about that. They want to know about ceviche and Sauvignon Blanc, all the great seafood here. I mean, it's hard to, like when you're in Argentina, eating beef and having Malbec, or when you're in Muscadet, having oysters. And I think that's great content for you to think about, and just getting people, instead of just like another, here's a picture of my wine bottle, here's a picture of my wine bottle. Think about, delicious images that will draw people in. So that's something I really like to do on Foodista. And we also do a program of, called advertorials. They're like sponsored posts. So, we work with brands and mostly food brands, but certainly we open to wine brands. Of targeting content, creating content specifically for you, and sending that out to our mailing list, and sending it out on Twitter and Facebook as well as a blog post. So that's an opportunity that's there as well from my side. But, and also engaging food bloggers. I mean, the food blogger community dwarfs the wine blogging community. It's huge, and food bloggers, they have great images. They have a lot to say about. A lot of them drink wine too. So I think also targeting food bloggers and building relationships with them is really useful too.
And food tends to be less intimidating. Everyone
Yes.
has opinions on food. You have no problem saying, I don't like that. And people will tell you, but it's a nice way into wine, because wine can still intimidate a lot of people. Thanks, James. I think some great ideas. So I wanted to save time for more questions, because that's everyone's been holding them. So anybody has more questions to ask?
When you were talking about like best practices or the best examples in social media or blogging, I think one big question, especially coming from wineries here in Chile, is what language do we use? Because we have a huge, of course, international consumer base, England or the US, and then it's important, but it's also the Chilean base. Sometimes because of the product, or for example, and this is very specific to our case, where we have the tourism part, and many times on the sales side, we can influence in a quicker way the Chilean market. So what would you suggest in that sense? Two separate blogs, one in English, one in Spanish, or Facebook page or Twitter account, or one that has Spanish and English together? I mean, what would be the best way to go with that?
That question was posed to me outside too, so I'm glad that you brought that up. Yeah, honestly, I don't know what the best answer is. I think if you had the time and resources, it might make sense to have two separate pages. But at the same time, that can be an awful,
But I would-
intensive. So what have you, Lori?
Well, I was going to go on to our insights right here, because half of our Wines of Chile Facebook, people are from Chile. And we're always in English. And so, if you have a fan page, you can, you can see, hopefully everyone looks at you can tell what people like, you can see what resonates, but you also can see who your consumers are. And, let's change this. But it says the languages, and it shows you all the different countries.
But it's easy to use both languages in the same page, because the information is
I think it might be.
generally rather short. There's not a lot to use English and Spanish.
Yeah, because look, actually Chile is now our biggest country. We have 10 more people in Chile than the whole U.S. And now, wow, we've got Santiago's the #1 city. We're all in English. I think if you do both, it's confusing. But I would just say
I've been to some websites where
and actually,
they'll have a flag at the top and they'll translate. I can click on a British flag and get English.
right, for the website, but not on Facebook.
Facebook is different.
Yeah, almost all, I think every website definitely should have English and Spanish. But you can see the language here. So the 2,800 English and then 2,500 Spanish.
But I think that for the wineries it's different, because the clients in Chile are normal people that don't, all the people speak English here, so they are accustomed to read in Spanish, the information. So if you put, I like this food with this wine in English, I don't think it's good for the Chile.
Or make 2 different pages.
Do you think it would be confusing to use both languages in one page? Like some posts in English for maybe for the more English-speaking market, and then some things in Spanish for people that are, I don't know.
I think that would be fine, especially because there might be, like you said, a different message, that you're trying to portray. And if that particular post you think would apply more to the local people here, put it in Spanish. If it's something that you want to drive to the U.S. market, put it in English.
Sometimes you can incorporate some Spanish words to the English post, or it's like, because I guess a lot of people in the United States also understand some Spanish words.
Yeah.
And
So we can read more than we can.
But we'll put some Spanish words in. And I think probably what you do, you monitor. I mean, let's say you put a Spanish article on there and you get tons of people responding. Maybe there's more interest than you think. That's what's good. You can change easily. You get real-time feedback.
More questions?
I hope this was informative. We're putting my presentation on the website. If you have any other questions, always send me an email, and definitely follow